Russia. The one that I'm living in now is not the same that I arrived in 2022. Now, the Russia that you encounter whenever you fly and come visit Russia is not going to be the Russia that we're talking about even in this video. In this country, everything is ever changing. The pace at which things change in Russia can sometimes shock Westerners. Hello and welcome, my friends, to another video. My name is Dan Castle. I'm an American veteran who settled down in Siberia in Russia. I got married here and I'm having my first child hopefully in October. So in this video, we're going to be covering the three most important topics in a country that is always changing. You usually want to know how to get to this country. You also want to know if it's dangerous for you to visit, and you want to know how to bring money to this country. These are the three things that are always changing in Russia because of sanctions, because of the conflict in Ukraine, how unstable the world is in its mood against Russia. You never know if the world is going to wake up hating Russia more than it already does. So in this video, we're going to be covering these three things that are very important if you want to come visit Russia. How people get to Russia has changed dramatically from the beginning of 2022 to now. Before, many countries were not flying into Russia, but one thing hasn't changed. It's the central hub, which is Turkey. Turkey has actually monopolized itself in flights into Russia, and they have controlled the prices. They have controlled who comes in, who doesn't come in, who comes out, who doesn't come out. I've already told stories where my wife was unable to leave Turkey because she was Russian, and Turkey had a very bad reputation of not allowing Russians to leave. There was times during mobilization where people couldn't leave Russia, but right now we're talking about how to visit Russia. And the most important thing you need to know is that you'll most likely be flying in through Istanbul because it is the central hub that connects you to St. Petersburg or Moscow. So just remember, if everything else fails, Turkey, although a NATO country, has been open into flights into Russia for some strange reason. And just because it has been open from the beginning doesn't mean that things are not changing. Like I mentioned, they control the prices. Now, if you are thinking about flying to Russia now, look at those prices. If anything should change in world politics, the prices can skyrocket, okay? But the truth is that there is right now a stable way of getting into Russia. In the beginning of this conflict, in the beginning of the sanctions, it was a little bit harder to fly to Russia from certain areas of the world. Something else that really affects if you can come to Russia or not is obviously visas. Now, I remember at the beginning of this conflict, there were many visa centers that were processing visas for Russia, helping people out. Of course, you could do it yourself, but a lot of the consulates, a lot of the people involved in Russian politics or governance, they left the United States, or the United States closed them down. And in the beginning of the conflict, there were many, and now there's very few companies that deal with Russian visas, but you can still get Russian visas. For Americans, it is much easier to get a Russian visa, I think, than anywhere else in the world. And it's probably the best tourist visa you can get. It is still 6 months that you can stay inside of Russia, and that multi-entry visa still lasts for 3 years. Now, the things that's changed there is the ability to get these visas and the locations to where you can get the visas. The most important thing, though, in visa world that has changed is the new shared values visa. This is a game changer for the people who wanted to move to Russia. Okay, this visa didn't exist before, and this visa actually facilitates your movement into Russia. I made many videos having to deal with this visa, and you can see this video that I've made in the past. You can go look at it if you had no clue that you could actually move to Russia under a shared values visa and get residency. Well, this is something that has changed. It didn't exist in 2022, and now it exists. So please look into these type of things. This visa that we've talked about, the shared values, can also disappear. Just like it appeared, it can disappear. It is not something that is permanent. Now, moving on to how safe Russia is for Westerners, or what the mood is like for Westerners if you are to come from all over the world and decide to live or visit Russia, what is the mood from Russians towards Westerners? That has actually changed a lot. I feel, from my personal experience, that the Russian people are a lot more open now to Westerners. In the beginning of 2022, it was, for me at least, very intimidating to even speak English or go anywhere around town and be on the phone speaking English, obviously, or say that I'm an American, because, you know, the West had it essentially given a black eye to Russia. It sort of, I mean, it did betray Russia. Russia and the United States, I consider them natural allies, superpowers, countries that shouldn't be fighting each other or planning against each other. Well, in the beginning of this conflict, it showed that the United States actually had chosen sides, and the Americans were with the Ukrainians, well, the politicians at least. And I myself was actually attacked for being an American, and I'm laughing about it because it's so crazy to have gone through that and now see how welcoming the Russians are, how open they are. The Russians seem to have taken the high road, right? All the abuse that they've gotten from the West, and they still have their borders open for all the people to get the visas and come. The shared values visa is a welcoming to the Western world. If they want to live in Russia, there's an avenue to do it. And this is why it's so strange. From 2022, the mood was very tense, and now it's just kind of eased off. The people here are very accepting. You're not going to run into any trouble unless you're looking for it, right? So if you are the type of person who is scared to come to Russia because of how people will treat you, do not be scared. You should only be scared of what the actions you will do. If you're a bad person, do not come. I've made videos about this. The Russians have the mentality of, like, if you come by with the sword, you'll die by the sword. And I understand this. This is the truth. If you come to Russia looking to hurt it, you will fail and you will be punished. So do not worry. That has changed a lot. 2022 was very tense, the beginning of the conflict. But now in 2025, I've seen more Westerners than I've ever seen. It seems to have just skyrocketed from 2023 to now. By the way, if you're finding this video to be helpful, if you're learning something, if you're just enjoying this, please do consider subscribing. Please do consider putting like and sharing this video with some people who might be in the same community as you. A lot of us are in the same community. We like to see Russian content. We like looking at what's going on this side of the wall, because believe it or not, the world has set up a huge wall and it's very hard to learn about what's happening on the other side. And I'm doing my best to give you guys the facts and giving you my personal experience so that when you guys come, you have a little baseline to go off of, right? So thank you so much, and let's continue with the last thing in this video, which is bringing money to Russia and essentially starting your life in Russia. A lot of people have been asking, how do I bring my hundreds of thousands of dollars? How can I buy a house in Russia? Well, let's get into that. When I first came to Russia, I believe I brought either $7,000 or $9,000 cash. I don't remember. And I brought that much. I had planned only a month or two of visiting Russia. I had a two-way ticket. And in that time, I realized, well, listen, I think I want to stay a little bit longer. My money was enough, and it lasted me for months. But at the time, I only knew just to bring cash. I declared it at the airport, and I was on my way. I went to the bank, and I exchanged it. It was very simple. That has changed immensely. I remember I even had some $100 bills. In America, some people write on them. They treat them pretty badly. And in 2022, they took all my $100 bills. I had a machine. I deposited the money in the machine. It scanned them and it exchanged for rubles. And now those machines in my city have disappeared. You can no longer manually put all of the $100 bills that you may bring. This is one of the things that has changed more than anything. The way that people bring money into Russia or start a new life in Russia has greatly changed since 2022. Now the banks looked at every $100 bill or any bill under a microscope. It's a machine where they magnify all the bills and they look only for perfect bills. Some banks are more lenient than others, but the truth is it's getting very hard to even bring cash into Russia since 2022. I can say with confidence that if you are planning to visit Russia, probably the best way to do it is still cash. If you're only going to visit for about a month or two, bring a couple $1,000s, whatever you feel comfortable with. Anything over 10,000 has to be declared. And honestly, I'm not sure if you're trying to move to Russia and you're trying to bring $100,000, I'm not sure if you can bring that in cash. I don't know if the United States will let you move that money, but if you declare it in Russia, I'm pretty sure they will have no problem. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, in our Telegram, The Russian Experience, which will be linked down below, we have a community of members who are free to join, by the way, and we do all of the research for you. And we've learned that if you bring your money in crypto, USDT, you can legally exchange it in the exchanges in Moscow City. I've had many people come now from the Western world and they bring their money in crypto in cold wallets and they buy the house of their dreams. They get all of their money in cash, or it can be deposited into their account. If you want to learn more about this in detail, of course, you can join our Telegram, The Russian Experience. It's going to be linked down below. Now, when I'm talking about crypto, I'm not talking about crypto like trading and investments and all of this. No, I'm talking about turning your dollar into USDT, a very stable coin, and doing it, holding it for a day or two, exchanging it in Moscow. Again, if you want to learn more about that, it's linked down below. And it's being the number one way that I've seen people bring their money and buy their dream house, start their careers, opening up businesses, because people do not feel comfortable flying with hundreds of thousands of dollars or thousands of dollars, bringing it to Russia and the banks not exchanging them. Now, if you do bring cash and you're going to be in Moscow, try to avoid the banks. There's actually a place that you can go in Moscow where it's more competitive trading. And if you want to learn more about that, again, link in the description, The Russian Experience. We have people who can guide you in Moscow and take you to anywhere you need to get to. The other important thing that ties with money in Russia is banking. In 2022, I opened my bank account with my Visa on my passport. It didn't have to be translated. I needed no further information. It was very simple to do it. My phone number, my SIM card, getting my SIM card was very easy. Now in 2025, there is so much bureaucracy for Westerners, but the reality is that Russia is doing these steps to take care of itself. It's much harder now to open up a bank account as a Westerner, but it's not impossible. If you need any help with that, if you're watching this, if you're planning on coming to Russia for a long period of time and you want to open up a bank account, you will need to have a phone number, a new SIM card, and you will have to translate your documents. And all of this can be facilitated with the help of our people in The Russian Experience. This is perhaps the biggest change in how people bring money, how people do investment in Russia, is the fact that opening up a bank account got a little bit harder. I may make a video dedicated just to this problem in the future because it's a little more complex than I'm going to explain in this video. But you just need to know that it's not impossible, it just got a little harder. I'm curious to know if you guys have any other questions. I believe that these are the most important topics. These are the things that everyone worries about when looking at videos from other immigrants in Russia. These immigrants cover all different topics, and I see that your questions to these immigrants in Russia are the ones we just covered. And I wanted to summarize the most frequently asked questions into one video, but if you have any further questions, if you feel that there are some things that you're still skeptical about or you're nervous about, leave it in the comments section. Let me know what you thought about this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.